Welcome to Daybreak Australia.
This is Bloomberg Technology.
And this is Bloomberg Green.
To recap the headlines.
You do not want to miss this story.
Really good news on the jobless claims front.
How are you thinking about those dynamics?
Welcome to the 2021 Bloomberg New Economy Forum. We have more than 325 leaders in government and business that have made trips from all over the world, from 40 different countries. We need action. Action that can be measured, action that can be qualified, action that become publicly reported, and action that will save lives.
I'm optimistic that we're going to do better, and we actually took the learnings from what happened in the last 18 months.
作为世界上最大的发展中国家和最大的发达国家，为促进全球经济复苏、维护世界和平稳定做出贡献。预祝本届论坛圆满成功。
Through the collaboration, through technology, and through our human kindness, we'll be able to overcome a lot of challenges.
There is a place for the government to work together with the private sector in a constructive way.
The responsibility of our leaders is to try to fulfill it. And I must say, I think the dialogue has begun on an appropriate level.
We have a crisis in learning.
When you hear climate change, you get nervous. You hear, I'm losing my job. So it's on us to have a just transition and make sure that everybody's included.
Don't invest in the future, if we don't plan and think about how we're going to transition our businesses, that ultimately we put our businesses at great risk.
How do you think the pandemic will actually change buildings and change cities?
I think those buildings which are healthier buildings, which move more air, have a degree of natural ventilation, have contact with nature, those will be in greater demand. At the moment, they're probably very much the fringe, progressive individuals. In the case of your building, Mike Bloomberg, but it could be Apple, Steve Jobs, it could be Comcast, Brian Roberts. So industry leaders who anticipate those trends, those buildings, I think, are, again, likely to be far more mainstream because you have younger generations who are more demanding, more informed, and those changes will ricochet through. So buildings for the workplace of a previous model which recirculate refrigerated stale air are out of date. They're perfect for recycling as residential. Change the facades, natural ventilation, they're shallow, the floor to ceiling heights are quite low. That could also create a more equitable city where you have a richer mix of spaces for living as well as for working and leisure. And if you couple that with some of the trends that we've seen in terms of traffic related to changing patterns in the workplace, then you have more space for pedestrians. All of these trends were there before the pandemic. The pandemic has simply magnified and accelerated them.
Right now, if you want to buy a stock market index, you can easily do it, or a fixed income index or something. But suppose somebody says, I want to replicate what Columbia does or some other great university in their endowment. There's no way to buy an index that reflects that, is there?
Not currently, although there are people out there who are trying. There are people who are out there trying to find, to pull apart all the different components of value creation in a private market and create baskets or structures that allow you to leverage all those different opportunities. It's challenging. People are working at it. I don't know that I believe that someone has it exactly figured out right now. And also, I don't think you want the median or the average performance in a private structure. You don't get paid for the fact that you've locked up your money when you do that. What you want is to invest with the very best managers. And so that requires active investment versus passive. So I think there are people out there trying. I think it's going to give retail clients the opportunity to invest in some of these opportunities, but it's probably not the way that an institution will approach that market.
So before COVID, there was a thing called cocktail parties where people went to cocktail parties and they talked to each other. When you go to a cocktail party now, and they're coming back, do people say, well, you're in charge of the Columbia's investment endowment, give me some stock tips, or what do you think I should do with my money? Do people ask you for advice all the time, or you just tell them you're only specializing in Columbia and you don't tell them what to do?
I say, the cobbler's children have no shoes. I am an institutional investor. I'm not a retail investor. The risk tolerance of a Columbia University and the duration of a Columbia University is very different than the individual. So I don't give stock advice or market advice.
You will put a woman on Mars. You will bring forth global cooling. You will be the first chief crypto officer. Because when you subscribe to Bloomberg, you won't just get news. You'll get insight into limitless possibilities, knowledge, and inspiration to feed your ambition. So before you invent, pioneer, disrupt, before you change the world, Bloomberg.
Ginkgo Bioworks was founded in 2009 by several big brains from MIT. The founders wanted to develop ways to treat DNA more or less like software code. You find an organism with an interesting property, snip out the DNA behind that property, and then shove the DNA fragment into something else. The big promise behind synthetic biology is that we'll find a new means to harness nature and bend it to our will. We'll be able to manufacture things like chemicals and fuels and even physical objects in ultra-efficient ways.
Biology is ridiculously advanced, and we're just entering the era of being able to program it to do new things, and it's programmable because inside of it is digital code that we can, as humans, read and write.
Front Row, exclusive interviews with the most influential figures in finance. Lloyd Blankfein.
Deflation is a terrible thing. Inflation you could tolerate.
Kathy Wood.
Tesla will be in the pole position to dominate.
Jeremy Grantham.
We've had a very, very abnormal honeymoon Goldilocks period.
First available on the Bloomberg terminal, then on Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg.com. Front Row, the best seats in the house for business's greatest minds.
Hedge funds seem to come and go. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold, sometimes they go out of business. You've been in business for almost half a century, and you got $150 billion. What did you do that nobody else has been able to do?
What we were able to do was to be able to structure portfolios in a way that were better in terms of the returns, risks, and correlations of our investors. So to give you that an idea, in other words, you could balance things in a way. I could take different alphas, different bets in different markets,